Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Little Rock, where love is our teaching and service is our prayer. I'm Gene Miley. I'm the PA for today, the pulpit assistant. Also sing in the choir. I'm on the board, president-elect, chief cook and power washer. If you're a new person, we're glad you've chosen to worship with us. While you're here, please stop by the guest table in the foyer. We fill out a guest card and pick up some information about our church. I now invite our illuminator, John Alcoff, to come forward and light the chalice and lead us in our affirmation of covenant, which is printed in the bulletin.
I light this chalice with these words. Open our eyes to see what is beautiful. Open our minds to learn what is true. Open our hearts to love one another. Please join me in the affirmation of covenant, which you will find printed in your order of service, saying, Love is the doctrine of this church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humankind in fellowship, to the end that all souls shall grow into harmony with the divine. Thus do we covenant with each other.
What does it mean to embody resistance? I had hoped when I went to the Unitarian Universalist Ministers Association's Institute for the Learning Ministry the week before last in Albuquerque that I would hear directly from some colleagues who answered the call to Minneapolis just days before, but of course it was too soon for that. Anybody who had been in Minneapolis and then managed to make it through the winter storm to Albuquerque had not had time to reflect on that experience. There were a few brief reports or impressions haltingly articulated in informal conversations, but thoughtful reflections came indirectly from folks who took time to go home and write down those things rather than fly off to yet another city. My colleague Lucas Hergert, a member of the UU Ministers Study Group that I meet with each spring, wrote the reflections I just read as part of a guest column for a Southern Illinois newspaper, if we can still call them that when they're online. He serves a congregation in Chicago and has been active in clergy responses to ICE presence there. As I read through Lucas's full column, from which that reading is actually but a short excerpt, I half expected his concluding line to be something like, "How do you like dem apples?" I'm glad he ended on the note he did, and really before I started reading, that's where I imagined he would go, because nothing moves Congress in either chamber except a clamor from constituents. In the absence of noise from back home, the quiet temptations and coercions of elites through money or other kinds of power they have align our elected representatives with elite interests and often against us. Big reforms are needed, most of them because elite interests have obtained the deregulation of powerful industries, the crises Lucas listed, a healthcare system that puts millions in debt, wealth disparities, loss of meaningful jobs, declining standards of living for the next generation, and the rise in deaths of despair are consequences of reckless deregulation. but also nearly 100 years now of right-wing organizing have gradually influenced public opinion toward a distorted understanding of American freedom in which might makes right. I can remember when we all learned and lauded Abraham Lincoln's exhortation, "Let us have faith that right makes might." Entrenched elites oppose anything that would curb their power or in any way make them uncomfortable. This habit interferes with their sense of how to love their neighbors. They become careless in every sense, as we have seen. The result is dark times like these, when targeted groups of our neighbors suffer all manner of state-sanctioned harassment and violence. Many Americans, especially people of color, can testify that such violence is nothing new in America. Indeed, it is accurate to say that American democracy was planted in darkness. Not only the darkness of whether a nation conceived in liberty and dedicated to the proposition that all are equal before the law can long endure, but also the darkness of unacknowledged or worse, rationalized resistance to democracy's core values, the most central of which must be love of neighbor. If anyone says this country was founded on Christian values, that is the only one they can reasonably, logically mean. Democracy is loving your neighbor by making sure they have a voice. Planted in darkness, this democracy has grown in darkness. That's the light and hope offered in dark times like these. And we inherit this democratic republic always with the contingency, if we can keep it. Lucas raised the civic option beyond voting to engage in movement activism. My colleague Meg Riley, a longtime resident of Minneapolis, tells a compelling story about that. She says, and I'll quote her now, "The first local thing I got involved with was in 2005. There was an episode of Buster on PBS where Buster visited lesbian parents. I wrote in my local church email group that since this has become a public thing, we should host a public showing of the episode. I pictured a screen in the church basement. A local activist in the church email group saw my post and had bigger ideas. Before I knew it, I was meeting with veteran local activists who knew how to get stuff done. Soon, we had gotten access to the Riverview Theater, which holds over 700 people. The mayor was giving the key to the city to someone dressed in a rabbit suit representing the character Buster from the show. The local PBS person was speaking. In meetings, I kept saying, but we need to do publicity. How will anyone know about it? It was before social media, so I thought posters or radio shows or paid advertising. The locals just kept looking at me and saying, it will be fine. People know. People knew all right. The theater was packed half an hour before the show began. We had to turn away hundreds of people. Families with children, queer adults, allies, packed that theater. Word of mouth, it turns out. Relationships. People talked to the people they knew, and it rippled out. So Meg says, this is how I know Minneapolis will remain connected, with or without signal groups or some other technological iteration. People here know each other. We talk to each other. The Venn diagrams overlap of neighborhood, interest, identity, activity, parenting, school, work, arts. Work for justice keeps us connected. Yes, like everywhere else, some of our relationships have been supplanted by or replaced by technology. Yes, like everywhere else, people are more isolated here than we used to be. But we are still joiners. Relationship is still fundamental here. Minneapolis, St. Paul is right on the Mississippi River, and Minneapolis has 10 lakes, but there are invisible currents that connect us and sustain us everywhere. Many of us have connections like that here in Little Rock. Where we have them, we need to keep leaning into them. And we need to keep tangling and interweaving and taking more in, keep reaching out, keep bringing in. Big reforms are needed. Everything seems hard. Often, what we can do seems small compared to what's needed. But when we're connected as neighbors in deep and long-standing ways, our small action, well coordinated with others, can be a domino in a chain that makes a big and needed difference. The normal, everyday, good thing we can always do is to keep connected to our neighbors. That doesn't mean a perpetual, never-ending life of movement activism. This is how we're going to live for a long time. Not always. But always, we will have the deep connections made through years of neighborly love and care to make it through the dark times because we have tended them. So what does it mean to embody resilience? Sing with me. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, harmonize. Hold on, oh dear ones, here comes the dawn. Hold on, my dear ones, here comes the dawn. Amen.
Remain standing while John extinguishes our chalice as we join together saying our closing words, saying,
Go out into the world in peace, have courage, hold on to what is good, return to no person evil for evil, strengthen the faint-hearted, support the weak, help the suffering, honor all beings. And may you stay resilient by staying connected.